Have you ever done a job that benefits society? There are many ways to do volunteer work and do things that are useful to the community, and for this young man, he may want to renovate this abandoned house. Let's follow free lawn mowing to see how this young man carries out his public cleanup work here. You will surely be surprised to know that this used to be the headquarters of a well-known aquaculture company in the area. However, after the company moved its business, the office was abandoned. The house is located on the national highway, with many vehicles passing by every day, so not reusing it would be a waste and somewhat detract from the beauty of the locality. Personally, I think that partly because this place has been abandoned for a long time, the weeds around it have grown a lot, and it looks quite gloomy, so many investors do not want to rent the house. Looking at it, the area of the house is not too large, and right at the entrance, there is still an old sofa that Ton Trang Company left behind. Although the house's area is normal, the surrounding land area is quite large, but because it has been abandoned for so long, trees and weeds have grown so much that it is difficult to walk into. Looking at the amount of weeds, it is enough to see that this place has been forgotten for a very long time. Inside the house is also empty, apart from garbage and leaves, there is almost nothing left. It is really not easy for anyone to rent this place when looking at such a scene. However, that won't be a problem anymore because at this moment, the young man has decided to do something useful and not care about the pay, which is to clean up this abandoned house as much as possible. After wandering around and surveying the condition of the house, the young man used appropriate clothing and professional equipment to start cleaning up. He began in the area in front of the house, using a grass cutter to clear the grass along the road. Realizing he couldn't do it alone, the kind young man asked for the help of a colleague. With each person using a machine, they cleaned up every patch of grass that had been clinging to the roadside for a long time. You can see how hard the workers have to use their strength to cut the grass. This grass has grown wild for so long that no one has cut it, making it very solid and tightly bound together. There are even rocks on the roadside, making it much more difficult to cut the grass than on the ground, but the two workers are still enthusiastic and diligent in cleaning up. After cleaning up the basic area near the roadside, the two workers began to cut the grass near the house. There is a lot of grass and it is very dense, tightly bound together, making cleaning up difficult and time-consuming. However, compared to these obstacles, the enthusiasm and desire of this group of workers to bring about a clean environment are much greater. There are many wild trees growing on the wall of the house, very tall and tightly bound, making the female worker have to use a knife to cut them instead of using a grass cutter. Watching the two workers work should somewhat remind us that we all have a responsibility to protect our living environment. Even the act of littering is clearly demonstrated when you observe these two workers cleaning up for free. Every action they take is quick and careful to help the house become more vibrant. The front of the house had been tidied up somewhat, so the two workers began moving to the side of the house, where there was a small path leading to the back of the house. Compared to the grass in front of the house, the bushes here seemed much more difficult to deal with, as they had grown very thick and dense. Take a look at the amount of grass the young man was cutting earlier, it was thick and layered. The young man couldn't even cut the grass close to the ground and had to cut half of it first because it was too tangled to get the cutting machine in. In cases like this, if the worker is not careful, it's easy to get the machine stuck and have accidents. However, every movement of the two workers was skillful, careful, and extremely firm, without any unnecessary actions. While the young man was still using the cutting machine to work, his friend was using a knife to trim the branches that were encroaching on the path. The company used to take care of this area, but now it's been abandoned, so many trees and plants have grown wild, affecting the landscape and people's movements. Under the relentless effort of the two workers, you could slowly see the picturesque scenery and the path was gradually being formed again. The wild grass around the house has now almost been defeated, no longer a barrier. The task at hand for the young man and his companion is to clean up all their spoils. They begin clearing each clump of grass and the large branches they had cut down to make way for the local trash. Do you see how the land area isn't much, but the amount of grass clinging to it is too much to count? The two need to use rakes to gather them all up, then move them away so that they can quickly see and not worry about leaving any trash behind. One person rakes while the other transports, the two work continuously without resting their hands. With their effort, each clump of grass has been cleaned up, gradually returning a more spacious environment to this abandoned house. However, look at what they are doing now. The grass cutting just now was only the first round to clean up the surrounding environment of the house. The two workers decided to cut the grass again to make sure that not a single wild blade of grass would be missed. While the young man was meticulously cutting the grass, his friend didn't stop either. The worker moved all the excess grass and trimmed branches outwards. Each person has their own task, each person has their own operation, and there is no gap for resting. When the clumps of grass were partially cleared, the female worker began using a broom to sweep and collect all the litter along the roadside so that the young man could take it away. With their whole hearts and a kind heart, the two workers tried to clean up the environment as thoroughly as possible. If the area in front of the house and the pathway next to the house have been cleaned, then how can there be such overgrown weeds next to the house? Two kind workers are assigned to clean up the area. The young man uses a lawnmower to clear the weeds on the ground and along the wall of the house. The female worker proceeds to clean up around the area, removing all the trash surrounding the house. She carefully cleans up everything from the sofa to the fallen bricks. The young man does the same, not missing any nooks or crannies, using the lawnmower to trim all the branches that obstruct the path for the best movement. After a while of working together, the young man and the female worker seem to understand each other better, working together smoothly. When one person mows the lawn, the other uses a rake to pull all the cut grass out very smoothly. However, it can be seen that the amount of grass in this area compared to the front and the small path is already much less. The female worker also needs a knife to remove all the excess branches on the tree, not to affect the later movement of people. Even big branches cannot be difficult for workers. Under the smooth coordination of the two people, the area next to the house has been cleaned up, tidy and clean in a flash. It's hard to believe that this was a place with weeds and wild plants just a few hours ago. When the worker cuts the branches, the young man also quickly moves them out to shorten the cleanup time for the two of them. Then the young man uses the lawnmower to clean the lawn once more. Can you believe it? Now, the backyard of the house has been revealed. If it weren't for the help of these two kind workers, I would have never known that there was a backyard here. One person cuts, the other sweeps and cleans, and the empty and clean backyard is becoming more and more visible. After trimming, the two workers work together to clean up and move on to the next location. They carefully sweep and clean up the dust and trash. Every small detail is cleaned thoroughly. This abandoned house has been restored to about 2/3 of its original condition. All areas outside have now been cleaned up. The final task of the two workers is to clean up the inside of the house. Inside the house, besides trash and leaves, there is nothing significant in terms of dust and dirt. Each person has their own task. One person sweeps while the other person picks up the garbage, and the two of them can easily complete the task in no time. Every nook and cranny has been carefully cleaned up by the two workers, leaving everything spotless. They did this work completely for free and only wanted to bring a new look to the house and a fresher scene to the community. With the relentless effort of the kind young man and his companion, the house has been restored to its original neat and clean state. This is a very commendable and praiseworthy deed. Thank you for watching Free Lawn Mowing's video. See you in the next video and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to show your support.